You don't need an internet service provider per se. All you need to do is to get transport, which could be like somebody like Light Towers or other people's various fiber networks. You can rent space on their fiber network. Look, the town of, for instance, Concord has their own power plant, and they have their own network in town. I don't think they're saying the public, but it might be. They have their own things to the police, the fire, and the school system. I used to be there at a service provider, and then they broke away. They actually got fired the last 3/4 of a mile to an existing thing.
So I just want to make sure I understand your point.
You can go to all the major pairing points.
If we organized
You can go
enough
to a
people.
major pairing point. You need to get your own autonomous system number, so you run BGP4 at the gateway.
So, Barton, I just want to interrupt for a second. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. If you have enough people and the right resources, you're saying that any entity has the right to hitch itself onto the internet?
Yep. No, you can get fiber to a pairing point. The way the internet works is, it's a lot of these little islands, which we now call locally ISPs or large corporations or large universities.
Yeah.
And you peer with, the idea was you pay, a lot of peering originally assumed to be friendly, okay? I'll take your package for me, you'll take my package.
Okay.
But the only way you get somebody over here may be using this guy for transport. But then with things like MPLS, you can get, I had a service where I could get to major peering points in California and several other major ones across the country, and the ones in Amsterdam and several others I could get to London, I could get into France and potentially other places. Those were the ones of real interest to us. And they didn't care where I took the bandwidth out. I was paying for a certain commitment of transportability on their network. And I could sit in one place here.
I just want to clarify something. I want to get the big picture here, because what I'm trying to understand is, could there be a competitive model?
The internet is islands that talk, where the people connect together
So
and they talk to each other.
If we started an internet company,
you have to have a little bit of initial mass to do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
So if you started an internet company and you said, our internet company, Stan, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, some towns in the United States, there's one in Tennessee, I can't think of the city,
Brookline.
that has its own internet
Norwood.
service.
Brookline doesn't. Norwood doesn't.
All right, but then there are states though with Republican legislatures that pass laws that say you can't do that.
Interesting. But in states where you can, like Massachusetts,
Yeah.
you could create your own internet service. And then would that service be completely autonomous and protected from the nonsense that these other people
You are
do?
connected to other entities there. It might be other end things that you're just going to, or it might be big service providers. The problem is, if you have roughly 60 to 40 or 40 to 60 eyeballs or servers, if you are only eyeballs, only end customers, you can't make a case for peer with me for free. There's arguments for both sides. If you've got servers, you've got to get to people, but if you've got eyeballs, you've got to get to the provider. But if you have a little of it's not 50-50 exactly, 40, 60, 60 words, the usual number they say. If you're in that range, you can't argue with anybody big time because they can throw this, everybody knows the rules, they can throw the same arguments at you, so you say, fuck it, we'll do it. But some of the big guys will say, look, we'll peer with you, but you're really not quite big enough to be able to get it for free, so we'll get you do something which is called paid peering. You're going to pay a lot less than someone just buying it, but a lot of it is essentially the free stuff, but we deserve more. We're giving you much more than you're giving us.
So, Bart, one thing I'm wondering about.
The whole thing is the model of the internet wasn't buying originally, it was peering. You connect, you announce your routes in BGP4, you have to have a net block that's big enough to announce, and that's a whole other religious story.
So what I'm wondering, hold on a second, what I'm wondering about here is this situation where we have an inappropriate political appointee who's acting in a really disgusting way. I think we need to take direct action about that. But I'm also wondering whether the way we've conceded control to all these ISPs, maybe, I'm just wondering about Airbnb. So what I'm wondering about is that you could have said before Airbnb was invented, would you like to take on the Hilton hotel chain and compete with them? You would laugh, right? You can't compete with the Hilton hotel chain. They're massive, they're huge, they're powerful, they're rich. And yet Airbnb has completely squashed the new Hilton hotel chain by basically doing what you're suggesting, Martin. They came up with a way for people to network around the hotels. They came up with a way that people would stay with each other and have a funding system for doing that. They completely went around the existing business. I wonder whether we could do that with ISPs. Yeah.
Well, what's to stop Hilton from paying Comcast, Verizon, and RCM to say, when you see an Airbnb packet come by, reject it?
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's probably what you're saying.
If you've ever traveled around Brooklyn, you see
Just
those
think of
boxes
every
on the
customer.
telephone poles with the 3 antennas sticking out of them, top and bottom? That's their Wi-Fi connectivity for the residents. And there we go.
They found us.
That was
Are we
success.
out of time or something?
I don't think so. We're here till quarter
It's
past.
only 20 after 8.
No, but there may be a sensor that didn't detect movement in the room, so it shut the lights off.
Everybody stand up and stretch.
Yeah, wait, everyone's right.
Lights were off.
Adam, I'll get it.
He's looking power to
It could be out of time too. Take more?
Yeah.
No, it's 8:20.
You should wiggle your mouse and get the projector back.
It's only 8:20.
Right, well, we have a meeting, but that's it, it could be out of time if
Well, we're
they
not
didn't set right.
Adam, just one quick quickie.
Yeah.
Every customer that you got, you went to them and said, every time you go on Facebook, send Donald Trump a notice, or send the guy from the FCC a notice, see? And tell them, we don't want you to do what you're doing. And just every person you talk to, have them call them on Facebook, or send them an email.
And do you think that would have an effect on this person?
Well, let me put it this way. Back a few years ago, remember Archibald Cox?
Yeah.
What did he do?
Nixon fired him from
Right.
being prosecutor.
Right.
Was it
And how long
Saturday
did
night?
it last?
How long did the firing last, or how long did Nixon last after that?
How long did Nixon last?
Not long.
Not long.
That's right, because in 3 days, he got so many telegrams, he was ready to hide on an address. Because they buried him.
So what's different now?
Huh?
Well, I'm just puzzled
Just-
because you're right, John. You're
We
right.
have so much social media. Just everybody you talk to, send this guy an email.
But here's what I'm puzzled about. Yeah, Jake Glenn, do you want to?
I really think that almost everybody, except maybe the few of us that understand it, don't understand the technology, don't really
That's part
understand
of
it at all, and so they don't really have opinion, and therefore, they're not committed one way or the other. And they really don't understand it at all. I connect up to my internet or whatever, and
Well,
that's it. They don't
That is
know
up to
bad.
us to
part of it is also
They just
apathy.
don't know from that.
People are busy in their lives, having the time to deal
No,
with this.
but
I have to go to work, I have to
They
take
don't
care
know
of the
from my
family.
business. They say, the internet's fast, the internet's slow.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't register. And apathy.
Yeah, but you also have to understand, we're being lied to every day of the street. Every single time you turn the TV on. Have you seen this advertising that says they're gonna give you 6 megabits internet speed, which is way faster than DSL.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, this is commercial.
DSL is what?
1.8.
Is it-
It's a telephone line.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a,
Is that a biggest lie that's on TV? I see it 100 times a week. I watch it
So I'm
20
trying
times
to
a
put, I'm
week.
trying to put this together with what Glenn is saying. So what Glenn is saying is that one of the reasons why people aren't sending millions of telegrams demanding that, like happened when Archibald Cox was firing, which it was very interesting. I remember that moment
Yeah.
in history, and I remember that all of us knew what it meant. We knew what the firing of Archibald Cox meant. It meant dictatorship. People started saying, this is completely un-American, it's unacceptable, Nixon is guilty, he needs to be brought to heel. What's different now?
Well,
That's what
also-
I'm puzzled about.
People
You have the
are too
height of the-
lazy.
you have the height of the
Yes,
you have the
they
height
are.
of the protests
They're too
against the
lazy.
Vietnam War,
But that-
and people are fired up about that, they're fired up about the government
So,
supporting the war.
yes, but so do you think that we're different now? What do you make of, I'm just very puzzled.
Yes. What's the biggest trouble with the
Certainly
NRA?
right up.
Say again, John?
What's the biggest trouble with the NRA?
What do you think?
They only think about one thing. If it's not that particular gun, they don't want to hear about it.
Especially.
That's why I put them.
So single interest, single issue.
They're single-minded, one track, and they've lost millions of people.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that they're so tunnel vision, nobody pays attention to them anymore.
I'll bet if
Part of
you
it-
take,
Sure, Terry.
if you take 100 people at random, right, and you say, who's Ajat Pai, right? I would say 99 of those will not know.
I don't know if it's 99, but I'd say.
Oh, I
maybe
bet you it's 99.
Yeah, but it's
It's that one. Maybe
up to
more,
us to
maybe
make
it's
them
100.
remember.
Understood, but you know why the NRA is having the problems it's having? Partly, minimally because of Donald Trump, because gun owners figure, we're safe, Trump's president, we don't have to worry about gun control. So why do we need the NRA? I'm not gonna give my money to them.
That's not the point.
We're off topic.
This country is so stupid.
Hold on, John, wait, I
One
want to
quick thing,
Let-
one quick thing.
Yeah.
When the government allowed the bump stock to be sold, they should have took that and cut some of these privates off and fed them to them.
Well, not only bump stocks, but suppressors, body armor.
So I don't
Well,
think,
yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence that these issues are coming up. I mean, the fact is, that this is very, I do want to take a moment and note that our country has suffered this horrible tragedy.
2 of them in the last
The
couple of days.
This is collective tragedy, and it's not just these two tragedies. We've, over the last few years, had this happen, hold on a second, happen over and over and over again. And it certainly, in my view, puts some of this in perspective and makes me wonder. I'm really struck by the fact that when my parents, who were not political people at all, they were horrified about what Nixon was doing. They were part of the cohort that said, this is unacceptable. What I'm puzzled by now is that that is not happening. And I'm
Well,
fascinated.
it is, but I don't think to the degree that it happened during
Well,
Nixon's time.
it's not happening in the same qualitative sense, in the sense that people, a public official coming out and simply lying about something where everyone knows he's lying. This isn't controversial. Everyone knows what this person is saying is absurd. There's nobody, I can't find anybody in the interview who says, now wait a minute, Ajit Pai is a stand-up guy. You need to, I've seen that on some other issues, but
Yeah, and that's-
not about this one. So my question is, we as citizens and we as computer people, and I'd like to shift the conversation to address this because we're getting to the end and I just want us to move here in a positive direction. I don't want to just be ranting. The question is, do we want to go back to that time when people were just horrified and indignant and expressed it? Does that make sense in this context? Do we, now that we have all this technology, as John is suggesting, should we handle ourselves differently than we dealt in those days where we sent telegrams? What is our role as professional people? I'm getting a hint from Glenn about this. I think one of the things we ought to do is take a deep breath and recognize that what's obvious to us is not obvious to Glenn's statistic is 99%, Sharice is going for 80, you know, who knows?
Yeah, more than the average person.
Yes. So it is a simple fact that, I think it is a fact, that most people, when hearing Ajit Pai, do not respond in the same way that this group does. My sense is that everybody in this group knows a lie when they see one, and they say, this guy's obviously lying. But it's really important to recognize that the vast majority of Americans, for them to recognize that a high public official is lying through his teeth to them is a big step. It happened with Nixon. Nixon won the largest landslide in American history. Don't blame me, I'm from Massachusetts. He won every state except Massachusetts in the second election.
Yep.
He went from that to people saying, this man is not to be trusted. And when that happened, a lot of things changed about this country. A lot of things changed. What is our role in helping people recognize this lie for what it is? Pardon?
One of the biggest problems, aside from the government and pedophilia that's rampant in the government and every place else, is the media. mainstream media is not looking out for us. Mainstream media not only is 100% lying about.
That's what drove Nixon.
It's 140% because the other 40% is telling us other shit so that when we hear the truth, we'll say it's crap because they're educating us.
I'm sorry, that's not true.
Uh,
There are certain outlets that do not lie.
Good-
They may get it wrong once in a while, but they don't lie.
Well, it does sound like just to focus this on what we can do. We're not going to transform the American media today.
You can by
But-
using the internet properly.
Yes, so I think that's where I think we ought to start thinking as a group. We are, BNUG, when Glenn founded BNUG, it was founded primarily as an educational venture to help computer professionals learn. And there was no value.
And the social life
And so that meant it was
And to
not,
eat food.
was not only learning, but learning about a great operating system. So it was learning quality. I'm wondering whether we have a role to play in helping our fellow citizens learn about what's happening in this important area that's going to affect all of us. And if that's the case, let's brainstorm for a moment. Let's shift the conversation and brainstorm for a moment and ask ourselves, John had a suggestion, me calling my customers and saying, do you realize what's going on here? It's a good idea. Could we just, at this point, I want to invite people to brainstorm
Well,
about
that
this.
conference that you run, that one that's once a year.
Yes.
Sounds like amazingly good stuff.
The thing is, if this is gonna happen, and somebody's gonna, you're gonna start seeing a slowdown. And if your customers have been working here a line, everything's working good, and all of a sudden they're having problems. I told you about that 6 months ago. Now the shade is being pulled down. You knew it was coming, now get on the ball.
Well, but the thing is, it's
I
not
think John's
being,
making a good point.
It's not being done in a vacuum.
Wait, Martin and then Sharice.
I think it's going to be subtler than that, though, because I doubt that Adam's customers, unless they're Netflix, are going to see it directly. I think people who, for example, shopping around for Netflix or using Netflix or Comcast, I think some isolated consumers may notice. But I have trouble imagining a net neutrality situation where a commercial customer of one of yours might directly see this. Am I wrong about that?
That's a good question. Sharice?
the thing is, it's not being done in a vacuum. There are a number of organizations out there that have been educating the public and soliciting comments for petitions to be presented to EdgetPie and the FCC at large. Consumer Reports, Daily Cause, Move On.
There's
And
actually
there's 2 or 3 other organizations.
Fight for the Future.
But they're not corporations, so they don't count.
Actually, Consumer Reports is a corporation. It's
There's
a nonprofit corporation.
There's an organization called Fight for the Future, which is a group of people who've gotten together to fight about this issue and to do some education about this. I think this is a very good point, that there are organizations that are working on this. I have to say that I'm not filled with awe at their success. So I'm responding to this situation by saying, whatever these people are doing, it's not working yet. And so one of the questions is there something we could add? Is there something we could add to this process? It could be joining forces with Fight for the Future. What role could we play?
The thing is, if people don't feel the pain, and they're not feeling the pain, they're not going to be tuned into it.
That's true.
It's not going to be an issue.
So Glenn, 1928, economy's booming. Barbers are making a fortune on the stock market. You, Glenn, are a fine educator. How would you go up to the barber and warn him about what's going to happen?
And again, they're not going to listen. And they're not going to listen now. They didn't listen then. And they're not going to listen now until something happens. You know, I mean.
That's true, but when it's,
But they're not going to listen. They're
the
too
shade
busy.
comes
They got
down,
other things.
they'll know what we were talking about.
Right, but it's not gonna come 100% down. It's gonna slow down a little bit or whatever. And then the people can say, well, the internet's slow today. Or or it could be just a small, I'll take 5 to 10% away from everybody, or except my bet, and I'll give that to my best customers.
Well, not even necessarily 5 or 10, but say 3.
So, so everyone is still getting service or whatever. Maybe it's a slight bit slow or whatever. I don't think, they'll be as brazen to say, shut it off.
Just in
But they get, there's still a little bit.
just in brainstorming, let me just take an analogy. Global warming. So it doesn't seem similar. It's like saying, do you realize 99% of all scientists say that global warming is an extreme danger and it's getting worse, and we're...
But my beachfront
Right, but a lot of people are
property
being
is
affected.
fine.
My beachfront property is fine, and anyway, the government must know what it's doing. What are people...
No, they don't.
But-
That's the one thing you guarantee, the government doesn't know what they're doing.
But more and more people are being affected by it. I mean,
But
there's
there's
more
a couple of
there's more
island
fires.
countries in the South
So,
Pacific
Glenn,
that
is-
no longer exist.
Glenn, is that having the political effect? Is that affecting people?
I think slowly, I think that slowly it is, because there's,
Some country is taking, and they're putting snow machines in the South Pole, and they want to put 1 trillion tons of snow on the South Pole
Yeah, I heard about that.
to refreeze the ice.
And they're gonna make
And
that,
they're talking about hundreds and hundreds of trillions of dollars to do it.
but they're gonna use fossil fuels to make it.
Not necessarily.
No, they don't.
Well, I just want to...
Solar, wind,
Yeah, as we're getting to the end here, I just want to make a couple of suggestions. I actually think what we're facing here is an interesting challenge as professionals, as citizens, as people who know something. It is actually a burden to know something. It's a puzzling burden if you've ever had a friend who's about to do something really dumb and you can't tell them because you know they won't listen.
Or you have told them and you can see they won't listen.
What, say again?
Or you have told them and they still won't listen.
Yeah, or a child, a teenager, if you've ever had this experience of seeing somebody and saying, oh no, I really hope you don't do that. It's a little bit odder in this situation because usually it's that other person who's getting into trouble, not you. This is a situation we're in the soup with them. But actually as a parent, I can say that when your kid does something that gets them into trouble, it's not just them who get into trouble, you get into trouble too.
Yeah.
So I want us to think about, as we go forward from this meeting, I want people to think about our professional role as computer advisors, as people who know something about computers. And I'd like us to ponder ways that we can help educate people about this situation. If we think about this barber who's making a fortune, I'm going to disagree a little bit, Glenn, with you.
Not everybody.
In the sense, yeah, I think when you go and talk and sit with the barber and hang out with them, and you say, how do you feel about this? And the barber says, it's too good to be true, I can't believe this. And you say, yeah.
Unless bad thing
It
happens,
is
then
a-
they listen.
Go ahead.
Once the bad thing happens, then they will listen.
But also, people also, I actually find people can be, let me just finish and then you can. People I actually find can be not only smart, but multidimensional. So even somebody who's saying, oh, don't worry, but everything's fine, there's global warming, they've really inflated that, it's really not. In the back of people's minds, they often have doubt. And so, John, do you want to? I'm done. That's what I was saying.
Oh. What was the two fiascos that happened in Texas and Ohio, right? When was the first time you heard that blonde-headed piece of trash say, white supremacy talk has got to stop?
That day. So he's been promoting it for years.
That's right, but wasn't promoting
He
it.
spent 5 years saying that the President of the United States wasn't born in the United States, he's a black man.
Yeah, but this weekend, he didn't say that. He said white supremacy has to be stopped.
it's just words. It's to placate people.
Yeah, I know, but
It's by having this person, who's been one of the most hateful public officials I've ever heard, say there's no room for hate in America, it just seems laughable.
Wait till you find out who his mother really was. She's a child of multi-trillionaire types.
Martin will be upper.
Well, it seems to me that in terms of what this organization.
And by the way,
Hold on, let Martin finish. Go.
In terms of what this organization could think about doing, I mean, the obvious implications of, as you say, trying to educate, trying to spread the word, is, we can, I don't know if we have a blog, but we can start a blog. We could start a Facebook group. We could start a Twitter feed. We could, if the board has to vote or whatever, if we feel some sort of majority decision, we could support Fight for the Future, or does the Electronic Freedom
Yes,
Foundation
absolutely.
weigh in on this?
Yes.
I mean, I think there are a few, maybe more than a few, well-respected groups out there that have, hopefully an even-tempered perspective on this, and that don't sound shrill, crazy, and radical to the average person.
Yes.
You might not even have heard of them. At least they aren't crazy. Let's all get tinfoil hats because the mind already will.
So how many people here, as we're all members of BNUG, and BNUG is a democratic organization, how many people here are in favor of net neutrality and want to support it?
oh, everybody.
I'm being democratic here. It sounds, Mike, do you?
Yep.
So we have a unanimous opinion of this group as it's.
And if you were, you're either
I
stuck
don't
with
think
it
you
or.
can-
Well, hold on. People have a right to a different opinion, but nobody here has one like that. So given that, how many people here are in favor of this group linking, supporting, and endorsing other sensible groups that are engaged in this?
I propose that we have an editorial comment on our webpage, and then at the bottom of that, linking to some of the final, the more reputable organizations that
Yeah.
people might want to add.
Just don't become a one-issue paper.
No, I'm saying
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
just one article or whatever.
All in favor of having an editorial that has basically the content of this discussion?
Well, yes, but I recommend going more than that. I mean, I recommend a series of articles, because you're not going to convince people, I've been writing a computer newsletter for 14 years. You don't convince somebody with one article.
Yeah, not a one-off.
You go at it
it's an
in different
ongoing.
ways, like net neutrality and Netflix. Net neutrality and your barber shop. I mean, I think there's all different ways to
How many
explain.
people here are willing to put in several hours of work in advocating for net neutrality over the next 6 months?
Can I make a comment?
Before you do that.
No, but
How many,
How do you-
I want to ask, how many people
I'm
here,
happy to contribute. I don't know if I can start.
I'm saying, how many people here are willing to contribute some hours of work to advocate for net neutrality over the next 6 months? How many
How are
people
you
are
gonna
willing
do it?
Well,
I'll figure that out.
yeah, but how many people are willing to put some of their energy and time and effort into that effort? Most people. So, what I propose is that we strategize together, that we start an email discussion so that there can be some suggestions of strategy. We share some of these ideas with each other. Everyone here is on the BNUG mailing list. That we reach out to everyone, and that we then come up with some good ideas of how we can tap each person's efforts and advocate and teach and educate. Is there agreement about that?
Don't you think this thing, net neutrality is happened because of the Trump, before it became a president, mentioned it in going better.
Yes. It clearly fits a lot of the rest of
It
this.
is surprise for us, Trump got elected. I never took it as serious, he's not going to get elected.
Right, so,
The first thing we have to do is unelect Trump, and then make sure that whoever gets elected,
He going to
unelect the FCC.
I think that this effort, for those of you who are concerned,
resign, so.
for those of you who are, I strongly wish that this president would resign in this situation. But
No, not the president
We're-
resign, but if there's a new president, the
the
FCC guy.
FCC would resign. But I do think that the current
Don't
president.
come on, you may like the job.
Current president should resign. But leaving that aside, what I do suggest is my own bias about this. I've been overwhelmed by what's been going on in our country. I've been shocked and dismayed and extremely disturbed. And so one of the things I do when I'm shocked and dismayed and extremely disturbed is to recognize that I'm one person. I can't do everything. And then to ask, how can I be helpful? Well, I'm a computer professional. And so I'm inviting all of us here to use our role as computer professionals. This is a window on American society. It's not just about net neutrality. It's about having a government that actually serves us. It's about having employees of the government who actually do their job properly, all of which would lead to a change in presidential administration on all kinds of levels and lead to other kinds of political change where Congress does its job properly. I feel like if we work on this area where we have some special knowledge and we do a really good job, it will set a really good example. So I urge us to do it.
Do you know how this can be brought to the forefront for everybody? In one of the presidential debates, that question is asked, what, you know,
What's your position?
what is your, they might say, what is your position on net neutrality? And
But in a sense, Glenn, you're making a really important point, which is that before we get to the debate level, before it becomes something that's discussed among the candidates, we have to lay the groundwork. We have
You
to
also
create
have to
the
make sure
awareness.
that the candidates know what it
understand
is.
what it is.
Right, and not only the candidates, but the audience.
Yeah.
So in order, in a sense, we have our work cut out for us. Over the next few years, we have this job of helping people learn about this important issue.
But you gotta bring, that would bring the issue, people still might not understand.
It's chicken and egg, I think.
But when, again, it's a little bit at a time or whatever, but at least they will have heard the words.
Yes.
Or whatever.
So I really appreciate everyone who wants to pitch in on this. I think it can make a significant contribution.
Two comments.
Yeah, John?
First
And then
of
we'll
all,
wrap up.
Donald Trump isn't rich. He didn't earn his money. Donald Trump has lost more money since his father gave it to him. With 3 or 4 hotels that have failed. And
You
other
mentioned
cash
Trump
business.
steaks?
Huh?
Trump steaks?
And probably the only person in the
And
world that lost
secondly-
money in a casino. The only person ever.
Really?
Yeah.
He's the only person who's lost money investing in a casino?
He owned a casino. You don't lose money on a casino. I mean, you set the odds.
I remember one time I was walking by a Chinese restaurant and one of my friends said, I've never seen a Chinese restaurant go out of business. John, you got a second comment?
Yeah. I was in Woburn a couple of years ago. 74 years old, walking into the thing, voting jury duty, right? The guy, the cop was running the thing at the jury duty. He says, "You're 74 years old, you don't need to be here." I said, "Hey, it's like voting. If you don't vote, you can't bitch about the results." See?
It's so true, and a larger truth too. Thank you all so much for coming, I really appreciate it.